When you step up to a rushing river to pan for gold, you don't really expect the water to be calm, right?
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah, I mean, you expect it to be freezing, overwhelming, and, well, completely full of dirt.
Lots of dirt.
But you also know that if you just plunge your hands into all that chaos, you might actually walk away with a massive, shiny nugget of truth. And today, we are wading into a river of audio that is wildly energetic.
That is an understatement.
Right. It's unfiltered, it's profoundly esoteric, and it's exactly the kind of deep dive you tune in for.
Yeah, so today we are looking at a transcript from a show called Wild Thoughts. And it's hosted by this rather intense figure who goes by the name The Big Bang, which is quite the moniker.
It really is. And the text itself, it's a pure stream of consciousness. I mean, it's chaotic, it's profane, he goes on these massive tangents.
Yeah, it's definitely not a straightforward listen. Not at all. But our mission here is to sift through this philosophical monologue. Because hidden inside these, anti-establishment rants, there are some truly fascinating counterintuitive observations about the human condition.
And the tone is set immediately by the source's sponsor, which is not, a mattress company or a meal kit.
No.
It's the literal sun. Like, the host introduces the sun as a giant ball of fire that burns with the intensity to kill your body and destroy absolutely everything you have ever built.
Right, which forces you to just abandon binary thinking right from the very first second of the audio.
How so?
Well, the sun is this terrifying, destructive nuclear furnace, right? But it is simultaneously the singular reason we are able to breathe and, stay alive on this earth.
Yeah, that's true.
So by making the sun the quote-unquote sponsor, the source material essentially demands that you hold two opposing truths in your mind at once. You can't just label the sun as just good or just bad.
So that duality is sort of the primer for everything that follows.
Exactly. It sets you up for this whole exploration into the daily paradoxes of human existence.
Speaking of paradoxes, if you're listening to this deep dive right now on your commute to a job you don't particularly love, this first point is really going to hit hard.
Oh, for sure.
Because the source argues that most humans are basically sleepwalking through existence. Like, we're acting as literal batteries.
Just fueling the machine.
Right. We plug ourselves into our 9-to-5 jobs. We produce things, whether that's iPads or food or just people's happiness. And we do all of this to fuel a massive system.
A system that hoards trillions of dollars while handing the people actually generating the power, well, mere pennies.
It's a pretty bleak assessment of modern life.
It really is. We generate the energy that keeps the machine running, but we're completely divorced from the abundance we create. And normally, the advice you hear in this situation is to wake up, fight the power.
Right, the whole stay woke mentality.
Exactly. Stay woke and resist the system with everything you have. But the source claims that resisting the system actually causes far more suffering.
Which sounds completely counterintuitive.
It does.
Yeah.
But the logic is, if you fight it, you just become hyper-aware of the chains around your wrists.
Yes.
But you're still trapped in the prison.
So you're just spending all your energy being angry about the lock.
Yes. You're exhausted. So the text says you have to let the system mold into you so you can ultimately learn to control it.
Okay, I have to push back on this a little bit.
Go for it.
It's like swimming against a riptide, right? If you fight it head on, you drown. You have to swim parallel. But if you stop fighting and just let a massive exploitative system mold into you, aren't you risking just becoming a highly efficient, perfectly compliant slave?
That is the obvious fear, yeah.
I mean, is this idea of controlling the system from the inside just the psychological trick we play on ourselves, just to make the misery of being a battery tolerable?
Well, the source would argue that the illusion isn't that you can control the system. The illusion is believing you were ever separate from it in the first place.
Oh, wow.
Right. You are already in the machine. You're already producing the energy. The suffering comes entirely from the mental gymnastics of pretending you aren't a part of it.
So the friction is the problem.
Exactly. The power comes from accepting your position, looking at the cold reality of it without emotional resistance, and then using that reclaimed cognitive bandwidth to study the tumblers of the lock.
You move from being a frustrated victim to being a strategic observer.
Precisely. You understand exactly how the gears turn.
So if you drop the resistance and become this strategic observer, what are you actually looking for? Cost to control the system, you have to understand how your mind constructs the world around you, right?
And this is where the source gives us one of the most bizarre, but honestly memorable metaphors to explain our blind spots.
The Catholic cow.
The Catholic cow, yes.
Okay, you have to explain this one.
So the text suggests that societal programming, religions, cultural norms, they completely blind us to the totality of reality. And that the metaphor posits that you are only allowed to see one specific part of a cow.
Well, like just the face.
Yeah, you just see the eyes and the horns. You don't realize the entire massive back half of the cow is even there.
You're completely blind to the rest of the animal. And it's not just because you didn't know it was there, but because you were passively sitting around waiting for someone else to tell you it was there.
Exactly. Instead of just, walking around the side to look for yourself.
It's like Plato's cave, but with livestock.
That's actually a perfect comparison. We inherit these prepackaged versions of reality, the horns and the eyes, and we just accept that as the entire universe.
It really highlights how absurd our narrow view of the world is.
It does. We are handed a tiny frame and told it's the whole picture. And to prove just how vast and chaotic the universe really is, beneath those polite illusions, the source zooms all the way in, like to the microscopic level.
Right. It describes looking through a microscope and seeing the, quote, orgasms of cells exploding at each other.
Which is quite the visual.
It really is. It's just an endless, violent, creative explosion of life happening constantly, all the time, right underneath our skin, while we are just casually sitting in traffic or drinking our morning coffee.
We want everything to be tidy and orderly, but biologically, physically, we are constructed out of pure chaos.
So it shatters that static worldview.
Completely. Underneath the polite mask of society, you are a universe of dynamic, explosive energy. You are interconnected parts, just like the atom, just like the back half of that cow.
Okay, let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Sure.
If all human perception is just a narrow illusion painted by our subconscious mind and societal programming, then isn't the sudden realization that we are living in an illusion also just an illusion?
That's a very meta question.
Right. Like, how do we know we haven't just traded the horns of the cow for the tail and we're still missing the actual animal?
Well, the text explicitly anticipates this trap. It actually states, quote, "Even if you are awake to the illusion, you will try to get out of the illusion. You cannot get out."
Oh, so you're just stuck.
Essentially, yes. The goal is not to somehow step completely outside of reality into some pure, objective, godlike truth, because you are bound by human consciousness. You can never see the whole universe at once.
Okay, so what is the goal then?
The goal is simply to move from being a passive recipient of the illusion to becoming the conscious creator of it. You transition from being a static human being into an active human becoming.
Human becoming. I like that.
Yeah, it implies motion.
So once you recognize that you are a human becoming, you have to solidify that state of mind. And the source provides a tool to do this. A series of affirmations.
But these are deeply unconventional affirmations.
Yeah, they are the absolute opposite of standard self-help mantras. Like,
Right.
they don't have you staring in the mirror saying, I am perfect, I am wealthy, I am glowing with light.
No, they aggressively embrace the negative. The host of the source material chants phrases like, "I am doubt.
I am capable of blaming myself.
I am the machine that feeds my bosses."
And I cannot exist without fullness. I cannot exist without emptiness.
It's intense.
It is. And frankly, saying I am the machine that feeds my bosses feels like it would just reinforce the trauma of being a battery.
You'd think so, yeah.
So what is the psychological mechanism at play here? Like, is there genuine psychological value in affirming our darkest, most mechanical traits? Instead of just, pretending we are beings of pure light?
Well, think about the concept of cognitive diffusion in psychology. When you constantly try to push away a negative thought or deny a dark part of your personality, you give it immense power over you.
Because you're constantly fighting it.
Exactly. It creates an internal war. You are burning energy trying to force a fake smile. So by saying, "I am capable of blaming myself," you drag that shame out of the shadows. You own it.
It's like the opposite of toxic positivity.
That's exactly what it is. When you say, "I am the machine," you stop spending mental energy denying your repetitive mechanical reality.
The text says the goal here is to drop all inner resistance, to stop the meaningless task of rolling a rock up a hill for a tomorrow that never comes.
Right? The whole Sisyphus metaphor. By accepting your total design, the light and the dark, you drop the mental war. You achieve a state of inner stillness.
And you desperately need that stillness because when you stop fighting yourself and drop that internal chaos, you create a void. And nature does not tolerate a void.
No, it doesn't.
Which brings us to what fills that space. The external world. the fundamental law of harmony.
The audio takes a really radical shift here.
It does. The host starts reading from what sounds like a very formal, older-sounding text, almost like an archaic biological manual.
And it elevates harmony from just a pleasant feeling to nature's ultimate unforgiving law. It dictates that without harmony, organized energy disintegrates into death and chaos.
So the health of the body, the mind, the universe, it's all built entirely upon this principle.
Exactly. The boundaries and order of nature that we take for granted are active, harmonious processes.
And the examples this text uses to illustrate disharmony are so vivid, like they border on body horror.
Oh yeah, they are grotesque.
It talks about what would happen if the human body lacked harmony. It says the blood might deposit the food that grows fingernails onto your scalp.
Just creating horny growths on your head where hair is supposed to be.
Ugh, it's a horrible image. Or an acorn might grow into a mutated, chaotic hybrid of oak, maple, and poplar trees all mashed together.
It's a highly effective rhetorical device, though. You immediately grasp that disharmony isn't just a minor inconvenience. It is systemic collapse.
Right, and then the text applies this rigid biological rule directly to human behavior, and it delivers this incredibly blunt warning. It declares a person is, quote, half-ripped the minute they start feeling sorry for themselves and making alibis for their defects.
Making excuses is categorized as internal disharmony.
It's your mind refusing to adapt to its environment, like a rogue cell in the human immune system deciding it doesn't want to play by the rules anymore.
Which leads to an autoimmune disease that ultimately destroys the host.
Exactly. But I have to question the absolute rigidity of this rule.
Okay, what's the hangup?
Well, the text acts like any deviation is a disaster. But doesn't biological evolution literally depend on genetic mutations? Like, meaning a little bit of disharmony and chaos to create something new.
That's a fair point.
Does everything have to be perfectly harmonious all the time?
Well, if we look closely at how the source defines harmony, it isn't defined as endless stasis or never changing. It defines success as, quote, adaptation to environment in such a manner that there is harmony between the individual and his environment.
Okay, so adaptation is key.
Right. A mutation that allows an organism to adapt better to its surroundings is actually a move toward greater harmony. The discord the text warns against is the kind that creates a mind constantly making excuses, or life with no direction.
So harmony is about your internal energy flowing efficiently toward a definite aim rather than clashing with itself.
Exactly. It's about alignment, not stagnation.
Okay, so when your energy is finally flowing cleanly toward a definite aim, what do you actually do with it? Because after balancing your internal affirmations and aligning with this external law of harmony, the source says you are ready to execute your definite chief aim.
Which culminates in the reading of a segment the host calls Massive Movement, Part 6.
Massive movement? That sounds like a workout program.
It does, but in this context, a massive movement represents a structured, undeniable shift in your life trajectory.
Yeah.
And after all this esoteric buildup, Part 6 addresses the ultimate crushing frustration of the modern worker.
The quote is, "I have worked long hours, and what do I have to show for it?"
Which, honestly, if you've ever stared at your bank account after a 60-hour work week and wondered what the point of all that exhaustion was, that line really resonates.
Oh, absolutely. And the source offers a radical reassurance to that exact feeling. It tells you directly you have made no wrong decisions.
None at all.
Your entire life, all the pain, all the mundane tasks, all the knowledge you've acquired is just a blimp in time.
And using the word blimp there instead of blip is fascinating.
I noticed that. It's such a weird choice.
Right, because a blip is fast and meaningless. But a blimp is this massive, slow-moving, hovering object.
Oh, that's interesting.
Your life feels heavy and huge to you. It takes up your entire sky.
Okay.
But in the grand scale of the universe, it's just passing through.
So the source is instructing you to stop punishing yourself for your past. Every single experience you've had was just necessary data collection.
Exactly. Your brain has accumulated thousands of connections and vibrations to prepare you for this exact moment.
But then the audio pivots to warn us about how that accumulated data is constantly being hijacked. It points to bright screens, flashing lights, and the subtle noises of media as direct programming.
Designed to captivate your attention, drain your cognitive bandwidth, and basically keep you operating as a compliant battery.
Right, they sever your connection to your own mind. But the source insists your brain is so powerful, you can connect with anything around you. It claims you can literally connect with a tree if you just sit still enough and tune out the programming.
You are encouraged to become an active partner of your own destiny. Reclaiming your sovereignty requires unplugging from the external manufactured programming and tuning into your own internal frequency.
You have the data, you just have to stop letting other people tell you what it means.
Precisely.
But I mean, the irony is incredibly rich here.
Oh, the broadcasting aspect.
Yes, we have a broadcaster speaking into a microphone, pushing highly produced audio through the internet, passionately warning listeners about the dangers of media screens and direct programming, while actively broadcasting those very warnings directly into their ears.
The medium absolutely contradicts the message. The host is using the tools of the Matrix to deliver the anti-Matrix manifesto.
It's why.
But I think the ultimate instruction is to take what serves you and then write your own massive movements. You use the broadcast to wake up, but eventually you have to turn off the audio and sit in the silence yourself.
That makes sense, though. Practically speaking, telling someone they need to partner with their destiny and forge a deep mental connection with a tree. It sounds deeply peaceful, sure, but how does the listener reconcile that vast cosmic viewpoint with the very earthly necessity of paying rent? Like, the landlord is not going to accept tree connections and inner harmony on the first of the month.
No, they definitely will not.
Yeah.
But this circles perfectly back to the very first paradox we talked about, swimming parallel to the riptide.
Right. Letting the system mold into you.
Exactly. Partnering with your destiny does not mean abandoning the physical world or refusing to work. It means operating within the physical world without being entirely consumed by it.
Okay, so you still go to work.
Yes. When you aren't expending all your mental energy fighting the existence of the system or feeling sorry for yourself or chasing the illusions painted on the horns of the Catholic cow, you actually have vastly more capacity to navigate your 9 to 5.
You can efficiently earn the pennies required to pay the rent, but your internal reality is no longer tethered to those pennies.
Exactly. You are playing the game, but you finally know you are wearing a mask, and you know exactly why you are wearing it.
So let's trace the complete arc of what we've uncovered in this deep dive. We started out as exhausted batteries, plugging into a daily grind we resent, generating wealth for a machine that barely sustains us.
And we realize that fighting that machine head-on only drains us faster.
Right. To break our illusions, we had to walk around and look at the back half of the Catholic cow, refusing to wait for society to dictate what is real and observing the exploding, chaotic nature of reality for ourselves.
And with that broader perspective, we learn the mechanics of dropping our internal resistance. We embraced our contradictions with paradoxical affirmations, openly admitting our doubts and our mechanical nature.
Which freed up the energy needed to align with the universe's ultimate law of harmony. We stopped making excuses for our defects, ensuring our energy flows efficiently toward a definite aim rather than, well, metaphorically growing fingernails on our scalps.
Thankfully.
And finally, we realized that in the grand, slow-moving blimp of time, we haven't made a single wrong decision.
Every moment of suffering and every mundane task was just data collection, preparing us to tune out the direct programming of the modern world and step into the role of a human becoming.
So the challenge for you, the listener, is to look critically at your own daily routine. Are you just rolling a rock up a hill for tomorrow that never comes? Are you burning all your cognitive bandwidth raging against the lock on your door?
Are you terrified of the silence when the screens turn off? Or are you ready to stop resisting, analyze the mechanics of your environment, and start directing your own energy?
This text takes us down a wildly esoteric path, and it leaves us with one incredibly provocative concept to really chew on.
What's that?
Well, the source ultimately tells us that if we drop our resistance and align our energy, we become our own gods. We gain the power to manifest our own realities and achieve perfect internal harmony by partnering with our individual destinies.
Right.
But think about the sheer scale of that idea. If billions of individual human becomings suddenly wake up, unplug from the shared societal programming, and start aggressively manifesting their own highly specific, potentially conflicting individual realities, what happens when all those billions of realities collide?
That is a fascinating question.
Does that collision create an ultimate, beautiful, complex, universal harmony? Or does it create the exact kind of world-ending chaos the source was trying to save us from in the first place? Keep panning for that gold.